let's move on to the last tip, which we constantly forget, and that is to create an immersive sound experience. In English, the term is known as surround system and refers to the message reaching you from many sides. In cinema, many years ago, the sound only came from a couple of speakers. Now the wings are equipped with speakers all around, and you hear different sounds from different sides. If the movie has a car passing on the right, the sound comes from the right, and this is a way for the viewer to experience a film more intensely. Just like in cinema, in communication, if we want our audience to absorb our message, we need to create an experience where the message reaches us from different angles, so that we receive not just one message, but at least 7 messages on the same topic. Because it turns out that it is well established that hearing something once is not sufficient to motivate a change in behavior. Companies know this very well. They know that on average, they must offer you one of their services or products at least 7 times before you decide to click on the offer. In nonprofit organizations, it is no different. We need to ensure that the message reaches through various means, through different sources, and in different forms: a video, an article, an interview, a conversation with a teacher. Recently, we worked on designing a strategy to motivate vaccination in St. Lucia-Zweitausendien, and the strategy was based on sharing stories from people about COVID and the reasons why they wanted to get vaccinated or why they had already been vaccinated. These stories were accompanied by interviews with experts or scientific articles. If you only hear a story, it might not convince you. But what would happen if, when you turn on the radio, you hear your favorite host saying, "You know what? I got vaccinated this morning," and you go to church and your pastor says, "You know what? Yesterday, my grandmother got sick, and since she had been vaccinated, her symptoms were milder, but I was very worried." And then you read the newspaper and see that a new variant spreads 4 times faster than the last one. And then you hear another story from your neighbor. So you start to bring together all these elements: a song, a musician, a teacher, an advertisement, and that kaleidoscope of messages is what breaks through all the noise and truly makes you change. And it is good for the message to come from various sources. We do not want to rely on a single voice. We want to trust a circle of voices that, like in cinema, envelopes you and creates a more intense experience, so that in the case of our campaigns, it leads to a change in behavior. And as I promised, I will talk to you about the Wild for Life campaign. The translation would be Wild for Life. The campaign played with the concept of personalizing animals and giving them names. I don't know if you remember Cecil, a lion who was the attraction of a park in Zimbabwe and was studied by university students from Oxford, until one day he was killed, shocking the entire world. The Zimbabwe park issues just over 40 house permits a year, meaning that several animals get married each year, and it is not news. But Cecil was not just any anonymous lion. He had a name, and people knew him. Names make it personal. If someone says something with your name, you take the comment personally because they are saying your name. The campaign made illegal trafficking a personal issue. By naming the animals, it turned a problem that seemed distant for many into something personal. The campaign aimed to merge your name with a species. First, it would give you a quiz, a questionnaire, and we have seen that asking questions helps keep our messages alive, and many people enjoy tests. The test would ask you questions about your personality, and you would discover what species you were, and you had to make a commitment or a donation for that species. Jane Goodall did it, Leonardo DiCaprio, Gael Garcia, and in turn, they shared it on their social media and encouraged more people to take the test and join the campaign. Tens of thousands of people did it and shared it, so you could see it on social media and everywhere. It was also placed in Times Square, put up in airports in Beijing, where a lot of that illegal ivory traffic arrives, and materials were also distributed on flights to African destinations of wildlife sanctuaries, etc. When you think about your communication strategy and the messages, keep in mind that people need to hear the message 7 times before they engage. How are you going to do this? What partnerships are you going to seek? With this, we come to the end of our discussion on the 7 essential tips for effective communication.
1. Know your audience. 2. Use stories. 3. Choose positive narratives for long-term change. 4. Use reliable sources. 5. More important than the content is the conversation that the content generates. 6. Don't lose sight of the distribution. And 7. Make sure to create an immersive sound experience so that the message reaches from many sides. And as they reach the end, I'm going to give them a little extra. One more tip that has personally helped me a lot. This advice was given to me by my first boss many years ago when I was working on designing marketing strategies for rural companies in Mexico. And he would tell me, Anna, perfection is the enemy of good. And with this, I learned that rather than having the perfect strategy, it is better to always have beta versions. Versions that you create, test, improve, correct, that you are constantly innovating and experimenting. Don't be discouraged if you don't have the perfect video or the ideal interview. Try, experiment. If it doesn't work the first time, keep trying. The winner is simply a loser who tried one more time. And the world changes so quickly that we must let go of the fear of making mistakes and just try. So keep your spirits up. Let's keep learning and see you in the next course.